Everybody, welcome to the first episode of the new year, the year where all of you are going to be changing your 5s into 6s for the next 3 months while you try to remember what year it is, and by the time you get it right, it'll be 2017, and you'll have to figure that out. But welcome to the new year and the new episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. I'm Steven.
And I'm Dakota, and unfortunately the age of John Cena has come to an end.
Yes.
Can we get a round of applause?
Yes, yay! No more John Cena! Let's let that stay in 2015, except for what I just did there, I guess. And move on with, I'm sure, a bunch of more ridiculous memes and GIFs and whatever they are.
There will always be memes, just hopefully not to that annoying level.
There is only one Lord of the Rings, and he does not share power.
Apparently, that's Steven's impersonation of Sean Connery.
It's my impersonation of Sean Connery impersonating Ian McKellen.
Yeah, good job.
Hey, that takes talent.
Considering it almost could have been Sean Connery. You got to remember that.
Yeah, that's true. If he would have had a brain that understood things, he would have been Gandalf.
What?
He says the reason he turned it down was because he didn't get it. It's the same reason he turned down Harry Potter.
Oh.
He didn't get it. Guess what he didn't get either? Another movie he didn't get. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, I was going to say The Matrix, because he was up for the second one.
Oh, okay. Oh, as the architect?
Yeah. Well, that is understandable, because I've seen that movie 10 times, and I still don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he didn't understand League of Extraordinary Gentlemen either, but he figured at that point he better not pass up another hit. Whoops!
Maybe they gave him the comic book, and he was like, "This is awesome! I got to be in this."
Yeah. Wow, this is crazy.
It's well-known facts that he doesn't read his scripts ahead of time. Maybe that's really what happened.
Well, that's a good thing, because he maybe wouldn't have been James Bond if he would have done that. But he probably read the books. Anyway, today's episode, we are going to be running down our, not necessarily like maybe on everybody's best films of the year list, but just our personal, what we considered our favorite films of 2015. So it's going to kind of be our reminisce episode a little bit, and we both have a few on our list that we actually didn't do review episodes of that we bringing up, and so.
But we should have.
But yeah, there's a few that we both are kind of like, boy, I wish we wouldn't have missed that, or whatever. But this isn't our full-time job. We have other things we need to do, and then there's just decisions you make that you regret later. Talking to you, Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
So, yeah, life. Anyway, let's move on from that, 'cause that's depressing. Just talking about things we screwed up on. Where it's a new year.
New year, new us.
Which means absolutely nothing. It's a new year, but it's still the next day of your life.
Yeah.
So, not to just totally depress you at the beginning of this, but you're just the next day of your life.
It's not like you hit that reset button on the first day of January.
It's not like you saw the red ring of doom and you just reset your Xbox 360 and everything's all good again, but wow, that's a date. That's even a pre-2015 reference there, the red ring of doom on the 360s.
Yeah, unfortunately you don't get a hit restart. Which, imagine how much better the world would be if we could do that.
No, it would be worse. Because if you reset, you wouldn't remember anything. It's not true trial and error.
No, that's true.
We're getting a little existential, though. Let's move on to our list here.
You're freaking me out, man.
I can't. So we're going to start with, obviously, just, like, we're going to each do our top 5. We're going to start with number 5. We'll move to number 1. We'll try to keep it brief, but not too brief. So maybe boxer brief? Or
yeah.
What's brief, but not really? Anyway, so Dakota, why don't you go ahead and give your number 5?
All right, my number 5 is Sicario.
Sicario. Wah, wah, wah. And Dakota, what does Sicario mean? That's a funny name for a movie. Is that like a town?
No, it's not. It's actually a word that comes from. I'm actually a little forgetful in my history here, but when the Romans invaded the Jewish lands and took them over, apparently there were Jewish people walking around just killing Romans in the country.
Yeah,
And
I know what you're talking about.
these assassins were called Sicario. In modern day terms, this is actually used for hitmen in Mexico. So it gives you a little concept, or gives you a little context about what
what
to
you're telling
expect
me
from this movie.
What you're telling me is this movie's called Hitman?
Yes.
But they didn't want to call it Hitman for obvious reasons.
Well, there was already an atrocious movie called Hitman. They probably didn't want to think this was related.
Yeah, and Sicario just sounds cooler, too. So what's a rundown, like just a gist of the plot and why you liked it?
This movie actually reminded me of a movie I wanted to put on my top 5, but I considered it a 2014 movie, so I didn't. That was American Sniper. It was it's very real world. It's also very dark. There's some action in this movie, but it's not like Die Hard action.
Like more like the intense action? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's and one thing I liked about this movie was just the pacing of it. There's a scene when they're stuck on the freeway that leads to the border between Mexico and America.
Okay.
And there's a scene there where I should say our protagonists are in this car, and they're kind of just surrounded by what would be hitmen for the cartel, the drug cartels, more importantly the cocaine, the people who are
Is that what drug
for,
this movie involves in? Is cocaine?
Yeah. And one thing I think that's the reason I put this on my list was this was probably the most kind of movie that dealt with a very serious problem that we're all facing right now. I know it doesn't really affect us being here in South Dakota, but just the drug smuggling and kind of what the Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, and Josh Brolin's characters are trying to do is they're trying to find the leader of this cartel. He's supposed to be the leader of the biggest cartel in Mexico, and pretty much bring him down. It's almost like they have carte blanche, and they're gonna do whatever they have to do to bring him in. And
Is this with the U.S. government's permission?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's something Emily Blunt's character isn't really. They step over the line. Actually, they step over the line and then run a mile across the line. And it's just one of those movies that kind of makes you ask certain questions. What is okay? What is not okay? I mean, we're dealing with some pretty twisted people.
Okay, so that's what you liked about it, just the idea of it made you ask questions about something that we're really especially dealing with in this day and age then.
Yeah.
It's pretty immediate.
Yeah, like I said, it's I mean, yes. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, this is probably, I don't know, it just kind of makes you think, look around, and it just makes you wonder about all the people, all the quote-unquote bystanders who kind of are victims of the violence that goes on because of drugs.
Sure.
And it puts things in perspective. And that's what I liked about. I mean, there are movies that kind of challenge you to think, and that's one thing I like about this one.
Oh, it's interesting.
Plus, Benicio del Toro was just awesome in this movie.
Honestly, even in like a terrible movie, he's always a standout. He's just kind of one of those guys. He's a good actor. He just doesn't get a lot of really, no, what's the word?
Media roles.
Yeah, like high profile roles, I guess is maybe how people say it. But well, that's interesting. So that was Sicario, and for me, my number 5 is also dealing with people working for the government, but in a more fictionalized world. My number 5 is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Honestly, part of the reason this made my top 5 was this is number 5 in a series, in an action series, which usually by 5, I mean, just think about some of the 5s you know.
Die Hard.
Yeah, Die Hard 5.
Terminator.
Rocky 5 is, not a very good Rocky. I mean, yeah, Terminator 5 just came out this year. Genesis. That was
Genesis.
It's still Genesis to me. But anyway, but for some reason, the Mission Impossible series just seems to get better and better with age. And I think, honestly, some of it, love him or hate him, a lot of it is just because Tom Cruise understands his audience and he tries to give them what they want. And he knows what his audience wants is just a tight, fun action movie with a story where you care about the characters and with action where you feel like things are really hanging in the balance of those action scenes where it's not just like CGI robots blowing up, or something. But, he tries to make it mean something. And part of it is the fact that he tries to do all of his own stunts himself, which pushes, some of the other actors to try to do a lot of their own. He always does the craziest stunts, obviously, but to do a lot of their own action things themselves too. But yeah, so this is just a series that gets better and better with age. It's just, especially from MI2 was kind of a misstep, but when Mission Impossible 3 came out, it was another example of a series where J.J. Abrams just was the right catapult to bring this series kind of back into relevance and to kind of start it off again on a good route, mixed with just Tom Cruise just finding ways up the edge. I mean, how many 5-film series have a record of 4 out of 5? I mean, not too many. And so that's kind of a lot of the reason it's mine. The plot is really, it's what it is it's kind of following off the events of the last one a little bit, but Tom Cruise's character Ethan Hunt is trying to find the leader of this group called the Syndicate, but the problem is he's the only one who initially believes the Syndicate even exists. And the CIA is sick of the Impossible Missions Force just getting to do whatever they want, and they're trying to basically dissolve the Impossible Missions Force and make them be part of the CIA, and kind of have that whole kind of change up in the whole operation thing here. And so there's kind of this kind of double rogue thing, because you have the Impossible Missions people basically going rogue, and then you also kind of have these rogues on the other side. You're not quite sure where they're coming from either. And so I think that's part of where this rogue nation comes from, is where everybody's kind of a rogue at the same time. But what's nice about this one is it doesn't feel... He isn't an enemy of the state again so much in this one, and that was kind of nice, because he always seems like it ends up being like there's a mole inside the Impossible Missions Force, and he becomes an enemy. And so it's nice that they didn't go that route again and kind of freshened it up. They brought in, they brought Jeremy Renner back, but then they brought in Rebecca Ferguson to be like the new woman, who apparently is supposed to be in the next one, and she's pretty good in this. She does a good job being like basically an equal to Tom Cruise in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, just, and all the, Ving Rhames is back again. He's always in them. Ving Rhames has got to be there, and Simon Pegg. And so just a fun surprise movie, because like I said, it's like you don't go into like the 5th movie with thinking this is going to be one of the best in the series, and it is. So that's my number 5. But
yeah, one thing this movie definitely had going for it is it seemed like they really thought things through. So some of the movies you mentioned, the 5th Terminator, the 5th Rocky, we could go on. It seems like they kind of just stopped thinking them through. They're just putting them out there to kind of gain more money off of.
Yeah, obviously, we're not going to sit here and candy kill this and say Mission Impossible isn't a cash grab. I mean, obviously, movies are there to make money, But yeah, Tom Cruise doesn't seem to rush them. He seems very intentional. As a producer, he's a very hands-on producer. And then he brought in Christopher McQuarrie to write and direct this one, which I think was an interesting choice because that guy is a pretty interesting storyteller.
Yeah.
And so that kind of changed it too.
Unfortunately, I could think of another spy movie franchise that could have possibly used some more effort into being made this year.
Yeah, what's that?
I'm referring to Spectre.
That's Spectre. Another one that was a little mixed. So
yeah, I was definitely let down.
You can listen to our review of that. Dakota gets a little spoilery in the review, just to warn you if you haven't seen Spectre yet.
You know what? I didn't give away anything you shouldn't have been able to deduce yourself.
It's true. Even though you could say he, quote unquote, spoiled things, everything he said was like, yeah, I kind of figured. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I didn't give away the big reveal, though.
Oh, so there's a big reveal. I'm just kidding.
You know what it is. I mean,
I know. I'm just messing with you. Anyway, let's move on to your number 4, Dakota.
Hey, Steven.
Yeah.
Oh, you're supposed to say what?
What?
And then I got something to say.
Uh-oh.
My number 4 is Straight Outta Compton. We kind of messed that whole thing up.
I'm straight out of Podunk, so I don't know.
No, it goes
these fancy NWA lyrics.
Well, the lyric goes, "Hey Dre."
What?
Yeah, and then Ice Cube says, "I got something to say."
I'm wearing my Beats.
But yeah, you know what? I actually didn't really think this movie was going to be that good. It
was kind of an out of nowhere surprise October hit.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, it was so surprising to you, it actually came out in August.
Oh, August, excuse me.
Yeah. For those of you unaware, this movie kind of covers the beginning / career of the NWA, which I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you what that stands for. You might just have to watch the movie.
Is it what? Oh, okay.
Well, it'd be N-words with attitude.
Oh, okay. There you go.
That's where.
Well, that sums it up. So not necessarily a word you should probably say too often.
Yeah, or you could just say "no whites allowed." Apparently, that was an acceptable. That was an acceptable one that they were okay with. But yeah, this kind of it literally starts off with you could kind of say that the rapper Eazy-E was kind of the focus of this movie because it does start off with him. I'm not sure if it's true in real life, but it shows him kind of being a petty drug dealer. And it kind of shows what he was dealing with. And then eventually we meet the very young Dr. Dre. I believe this was when he was just Dre. And
he didn't have his doctorate yet.
No. And then of course we run into O'Shea Jackson, also known as Ice Cube. I actually
knew that one.
I always thought that was interesting. That was his first name, O'Shea. Must be a family name.
That's why I'd go by Ice Cube too, I guess. Huh? He'd probably go by Ice Cube because his face is like ice.
Well, as the title suggests, these fellows are from Compton.
Straight outta.
Yeah. Ice Cube was kind of the lyricist. You find out that Eazy-E actually has no ability to rap, which it's interesting to see him try in the very beginning of the film. And then Dr. Dre was kind of just the man behind the curtain, the man coming up with the beats.
By Dre.
But some music biopics, they're just so formulaic.
Yeah, pretty run of the mill.
Yeah, I love Johnny Cash. I love his music to death. But Walk the Line just kind of seemed that way, especially coming out right after a year after Ray. It just seems.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily hold Ray against it. I I like Walk the Line just for, I like the Cash music of it, and I thought Joaquin did a good job doing the Johnny Cash. But you're right. When you look at it, it's pretty like, here he is growing up. Here he is successful. Here's his down. I mean, it's pretty like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And that, I know that's part of what kind of made this movie stand out was, first off, I mean, you had like guys who they just thought would be good at playing these characters, playing these roles. Or we thought they'd be good playing these guys, play these. I mean, they were like, huge actors, huge African-American actors. They picked guys they thought would be good. And kind of told... and I mean, the other thing this movie had going for it is it's a pretty unconventional success story.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was going for it too. And the fact that, even though I'm not a huge F. Gary Gray fan, the guy's a competent director. Slade a competent director too.
Yeah, this whole movie was just kind of interesting. O'Shea Jackson Jr. of course is playing his father in this movie. Jerry curls and all. I thought that would have been awesome if this movie brought those back.
Hey, it still could.
Yeah.
It's not on Blu-ray and DVD yet. So.
And then I wonder how the director actually got the job of this, because I know he did actually direct a few of Ice Cube's videos for some of his songs. So maybe they're like, oh, you actually know these characters.
Yeah, Ice Cube had a lot of say in the making of this movie, and so he might have kind of picked him. But yeah, there was a lot of controversy around this movie about what exactly was true and what wasn't, and there was a lot of, well, that's like your opinion, man, of certain events, and so it was kind of one of those deals too.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, you got to remember, anytime you see a biopic, this should just be your disclaimer. This is a movie. I mean, there's going to be liberties taken for the sake of pacing and things like that. So you can't, I mean, there's always that anyway, but yeah, anyway.
But yeah, it is kind of cool to watch them, how they have their rise to fame, and they show it. It comes, I think, not even halfway through the movie, but they kind of start having problems. Some of the rappers start kind of having problems with their management, and that eventually leads to Ice Cube leaving. Dr. Dre eventually gets sick of their whole situation as well, so he leaves. And it kind of chronicles the career they had after that. Both of them were two of the biggest rap sellers, or biggest rappers of the 90s.
Right.
This is back way before Eminem and Kanye West. So this is back when rap was considered pure. It was coming from the streets, man. That's real.
There you go.
But I don't know. It's really interesting to watch. It does have a very, very bleak ending because Eazy-E did contract HIV, and he passed away from it. But,
so, well, there's that. On that note,
but I would definitely say check this movie out. I'm sure some of you haven't seen it, but it's actually a really fun movie. Besides that horribly depressing ending.
There you go. So that was Straight Outta Compton. That was Dakota's number 4. My number 4 is also historical, not a direct biopic, just because it doesn't necessarily just follow one person's. I guess a biopic is more defined as like one person, so this is like an event pick. Mine is Bridge of Spies.
Great movie.
Yes, this was an October movie. I'm not wrong in saying that about this one.
Are you sure?
Sometimes I mix around August and October. I guess because they both start with aw or something. Honestly, what I liked about this movie was just about everything.
Yeah, this was just an overall solid movie.
And that's a good way to put it. Because what I'm saying by that is that doesn't mean it's perfect. That just means I left going, that was a really interesting movie to watch. And this is now you want to talk about, you can't believe everything you see in a movie, but in my opinion, a good historical drama biopic should cause you to leave wanting to know more. And when I left Bridge of Spies, I was like, I want to know more about this Abel and this James Donovan and people like that. And so the other thing that was just crazy about this movie is that it was directed by Steven Spielberg. And,
yeah, for such a huge director, this movie kind of just flew under the radar.
yeah, really under the radar. He's more known for his big fanfare type movies, but what a lot of people forget is that he's really good at kind of these subtle, more subtle, interesting movies also. He had Color Purple that was very well received. Amistad that was well received. People don't appreciate that one enough, in my opinion. Munich was pretty well received, even if it's hard to take.
Yeah, that movie
Schindler's List, probably his hardest to take.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's what I liked about this. It was just it was a very quiet movie, but it was very intriguing, and it kept your attention. And it just proved that Spielberg isn't just a director who goes out there to make a $200 million movie, that he's a director who still knows how to tell a very interesting story. And he had one of the finds of the year, in my opinion, with the guy he had play Abel. That casting was great there. I'm trying to remember what the guy's name even is now.
Oh, man.
His last name is Rylance, I think. It's like Mark Rylance.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And he's actually going to be in Steven Spielberg's next movie he has coming out this summer that he's doing for Disney, actually. The BFG.
Man, Disney is just getting everybody these days.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, he's worked for Disney.
Pretty soon they'll be owning us, too.
Yeah. And he's worked for Disney through things like Touchstone and things like, but this is like legitimate, like Disney presents the BFG, and he's having Mark Rylance play the BFG, and so it'll be interesting to see kind of where this. I mean, he's like already a middle-aged guy, but man, he was just phenomenal in Bridge of Spies, and you can listen to our review of that too, and just kind of more we thought of that movie. But I just found this movie, one that just stuck with me when I left the theaters. And just, I thought Tom Hanks did a great job once again. Tom Hanks, I knew it was Tom Hanks up there the whole time, but it wasn't distracting.
We actually had a lot of these big actors come out with movies this fall that were supposed to make them get them an Oscar nomination for this year, and those movies just sucked. And this one that we didn't even know about with Tom Hanks was just amazing, and I left thinking to myself, they're going to cheat him if they don't nominate him.
Yeah, and he probably won't.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, the guy who played Abe, this Rylance we're talking about, he could easily be nominated too for supporting. I'd be surprised if he did.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be too busy nominating Danish Girl and all these other like movies that no one will see until they hear that it's an Oscar contender. And so I mean, it's like, yeah, it's kind of too bad. This one might get overlooked, but honestly, I think it'll stand the test of time better than some of these other ones. So,
yeah, I can't even remember the name of the Sandra Bullock one that came out just a few months ago.
I always remember the sucky ones. That was Our Brand is Crisis.
And then we had Steve Jobs.
Yeah, like everybody's going, oh yeah, there was a Steve Jobs movie. Exactly. You've already forgot. You've already forgotten. That was supposed to be like the Oscar movie to compete with.
Yep.
And it was just a whoopee cushion.
And then we had Bradley Cooper do the amazing belly flop with his movie.
Yeah. But you got to remember that Bradley Cooper, even though he's been nominated for Oscars, and has he won?
I don't think he has.
He's, in my opinion, he still has to prove himself. Those David O. Russell movies, they just get nominated to get nominated, in my opinion. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure Jennifer Lawrence will be nominated for Joy, even if that movie's not even any good.
Oh yeah, she'll be nominated. Yep. I don't know why we love David O. Russell. He doesn't seem like he's a very nice guy anyway. But that's another topic. But we're talking about Bridge of Spies right now and telling you that is a movie that is worth seeing, and it's just it's just a shame if it does get looked over, which it might. But that doesn't mean, awards aren't everything. You people don't have to miss it. So you should check that one out, especially if you have any interest in historical things. This deals with the Cold War specifically. And so that makes it kind of interesting. I also just kind of see a little bit of that time period a little bit too. So, yeah. So that's my number 4. So, Dakota, let's go ahead and move on to your number 3.
All right, you all ready for this one? My number 3 is Mad Max Fury Road.
What a lovely day!
And this movie is just so awesome.
And this movie is just so awesome. That's what he starts with.
I just loved every single moment of this movie. I have been a Mad Max fan ever since I was 11.
11 months, he means.
And I think it was TNT. TNT used to play the crap out of the first 2 Mad Maxes.
For you people who don't know what crap means, that means poop.
And I always just thought it interesting. They didn't really show Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome very much. And I didn't realize years later.
There's a reason.
When I saw just how god-awful it was. But then here we are all these years later, and we finally got the sequel we deserved.
And needed.
way after we kind of forgot about Max. Yeah, even us fans forgot about Max.
Who could forget about Max? Come on.
Let's face it, once Mel Gibson's career kind of went downhill, any hope for...
His career didn't go downhill. His personal life did. I would like to make that known. He's still a good actor. His personal life went downhill.
Okay.
I just want to clarify.
Okay, now that that's been amended. Oh, what can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said?
All you ever hear about this movie is basically what you said so far. It's completely awesome, and everyone should see it.
You know, if anything, this movie just made me love Mad Max more. I was sitting there saying to myself, I need to see a prequel to see how all this stuff got started.
Or did it make you love Furiosa more?
Well, she was pretty awesome too, but no one will ever replace Max. Max Rockatansky.
What a last name.
I know, right?
Rockatansky. What is that? 4 syllables?
I think George Miller made that up. I don't think that's a real name.
Well, yeah, I'm guessing that's got to be made up. That's like a apocalyptic world last name. So,
but I'm not really gonna tell you how the story goes in here, other than that. While this woman is out driving around, she makes a left turn.
Okay.
And then she turns around halfway through the movie and goes back the way she came.
You have my attention.
All the while being pursued by, I'm not even sure how to describe most of the characters in this movie besides just psychotic, crazy S&M gear wearing
pale people.
I said,
I just noticed how a lot of them seem very pale for living in a place that's completely beaten on by the sun.
I think they do that to themselves. It's not.
They do that to themselves?
I think so.
Like powder?
Yeah. They
Well,
are all supposed to be dying of cancer, the war boys. So
there you go.
Maybe they have no pigmentation left in their skin.
Okay, so
Furiosa seems fine. Plus, I love the fact that she has a mechanical arm.
Oh, they say that her head's shaved.
Well, that's cool too.
Okay, so that was your number 3?
That was
Mad Max Fury Road. He gives it probably the most enthusiastic thumbs up I've seen so
2
far.
thumbs, way up.
Whoa, he pulled the way up. Haven't seen that since the Siskel and Ebert days. Oh, man. Oh, well, we'll move on to my number 3. My number 3 is pretty similar in that it involves maybe a little bit of a road trip.
Is it Vacation?
No. That is not Vacation. My number 3 is even more overlooked than Bridge of Spies, and this one is criminally overlooked. It's actually out on video right now as you're listening to this, so you should go rent it or buy it. It is Shaun the Sheep, the movie. Shaun the Sheep was like a 7-minute short TV show where like each segment was like 7 minutes, kind of like Looney Tunes. Those used to be like 7 or 8 minutes long. Those old Bugs Bunny. Well, Shaun the Sheep is the same way, and it was a dialogue-free, just kind of situational comedy type thing involving these flock of sheep on a farm, and there's like a dog that acts very anthropomorphic. That's kind of the farm dog. And then, there's a farmer there who's kind of doofus is kind of too mean of a word. He's not that stupid, but and it just kind of involved the antics pulled by mainly Sean being kind of the instigator of things. So that's kind of how you don't need to know the TV show and know the movie. That's the beauty of it, in that the movie starts with, and that's the other thing that's crazy about this movie, is I'm telling you all this story knowing it without anything being said this whole movie. This was an 1.5-hour movie without a single word spoken. There is animal sounds, there is mumbles, but there's not one word, and I kid you not. And I'll tell you, I have some attention issues sometimes. I didn't feel it at all. It was amazing. It was so paced so well, and the story was so intriguing even without dialogue that you didn't notice it. But basically the gist of the story is Sean decides they're kind of stuck in this rut where they kind of go through the same emotions every day. You know, they're sheep. They get fed, blah, blah, blah. So he comes up with this plan to lull the farmer to sleep, hide him away in a camper, and have a day of just goofing off in the farmer's house.
What?
Yeah. Oh, it's really clever, because what they do is, as he's counting the sheep just keep going in a circle and leaping over the fence, and then the farmer just falls asleep counting the sheep. You know, you get it. So that was kind of clever. But so basically they lull him to sleep, put ear things on him, earmuff things that block out hearing, hide him away in a camper on the farm, and they're gonna have a day of just partying in the house, and and then kind of clean it up, and hopefully the farmer will be none the wiser, because like I said, he's maybe a little doofy. Well, everything just goes wrong. The camper gets loose, and the farmer ends up flying down the hill, down the road, into the city, smacking his head and getting amnesia. Ends up in the hospital with amnesia, and everything's going terrible on the farm, and they realize they need to go find the farmer and save him, and it ends up being like this whole thing going on just because of trying to find the farmer not knowing who he is because he has amnesia in the hospital. And the only movie I can compare this to comedy-wise, and maybe even loosely, but the same idea, is the Lego Movie, where every moment of Shaun the Sheep has that kind of comedy where it's constantly coming at you through the things they're doing and the references they're making, where it's like just constant funny things and things like that just keep it moving within the story. The other thing, I should footnote this with, it's by the people who did like Chicken Run and the Wallace and Gromits. It's stop motion, which is really cool to see, the stop motion claymation. They do some really clever shots in this movie that I thought were really cool for a stop motion movie. Where's this one where they kind of pull out of a window of a house and stuff, and I'm like, wow, that was really cool for stop motion. Usually they just kind of set the camera there and they tweak arms, and whatever. And so they did some cool stuff with that. And this movie took 6 years to make.
Wow.
Because you got to remember, when there's, 24 frames per second?
Mostly.
I think they usually make movies at 24 frames per second. So they literally have to make 24 little movements of claymation to do 1 second of film. When you think about 24 frames per second, that means each little tick they do, that's 24. So, it took a long time to do this. But that doesn't mean you put it on your top list just because it took them a long time to make. I put it on my top list because the end product is outstanding. It's just a great movie. I can't proselytize this movie enough because nobody, I think, really saw it or noticed it. And it's just a fun movie. And it's not solely a kid's movie. I watched it by myself and was laughing like a crazy person at some parts. And so, it's adult. There's a lot of, most of the references would actually go over kids' heads, and not in the way where they're like crude or like a Shrek kind of humor where it's like, oh, that was for the adults. But like just like good, fun comedy stuff. And so, yeah, I just enjoyed that about it too. But yeah, Shaun the Sheep. Check it out. It's my number 3. So, Dakota, let's move on to your number 2.
My number 2 is a little movie that we all got to experience this summer, and that is Inside Out.
And we're doing our number 2s at the same time because that is also my number 2. Because Dakota and I, dare I say, both got the feels at this movie. I hate that term, by the way.
Yeah.
We need to, that's another thing that should stay in 2015, saying, that gave me the feels. Like, ugh. That makes me want to give you, I want to give you the punch now.
I just threw up a little bit in my mouth.
Exactly. Quit it. Stop it. So Inside Out is both our number 2s. Dakota, why did you make it your number 2? Why is it in your top 5? All that jazz.
Oh, man. You know, I don't think I've gone to a movie, much less an animated movie, and kind of just really connected with it like I did this one. This was probably the most emotionally packed movie I've seen probably all year.
And not just because it stars emotions.
No, not at all. If anything, they enhanced the walk that I took with this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It was like, I guess the things I love about this movie is that Pixar has been kind of stumbly lately and doing a few sequel prequels type stuff, and it's kind of like they had been kind of on a hiatus here, and it was like, okay, hopefully this means they're regrouping for something great. And then this movie comes out, June 18th or something.
Yeah, it was about then.
And wow. Yeah, and it wasn't just because we had been in a Pixar drought, because I think we all went in with some trepidations, like, we still had some bad taste in our mouth from,
Monsters University.
I didn't mind Monsters University, but that was the thing, is like, I didn't mind. I think the other thing is we just hold Pixar to a certain caliber where everything that comes from them has to be just the highest caliber or we won't tolerate it. And this one was back up to the caliber they're usually at.
Actually, I would say it was probably beyond that even.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
it's hard to know where you'd put this one exactly in the ranking of everything, but we can honestly just rank it as one of the best movies we saw this year. And I've seen it 3.5 times now.
3.5, huh? Yeah,
there's one time I didn't catch it all.
Oh.
When my kids were watching it, and could watch it again right now. I mean, it's a good movie. It's original. It resonates with anyone because it's just about growing up and about the things that kind of happen in the midst of that growing up. And then honestly, seeing the parents handling the growing up too, even that, not only are you resonating with Riley, the girls growing up, but if you're a parent, you resonate with the parents dealing with their girl going through these things of turning 12 and things changing and all that stuff. And yeah, just a really good movie, but you weren't sitting there the whole time like all sour and trying not to cry. It also had a lot of fun. I mean, just fun and clever stuff. Bing Bong was awesome.
Yeah, he was.
Richard Kind doing the voice of Bing Bong was just magnifico. To use a fancy word, that was just perfect casting there.
I think this whole movie kind of just had perfect casting overall.
They nailed it. And I think when I had this as my anticipated movie of 2015, and I remember you were saying that maybe the casting seems a little on the nose, and it is. It's really on the nose. But this is a case where on the nose worked because of what they were doing. And what was crazy was that these emotions, even though emotions seem very one-dimensional because like, oh, they're mad, oh, they're this, they still had almost kind of some layers to them, even though they were a certain one emotion. And so, yeah, that was just kind of fun too. But anything else? Well, and then obviously just animation-wise, I should say, the animation was outstanding. I mean, you could just see they're just getting better and better at their craft.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those movies where 10 years from now, I'll probably be watching it still, just enjoying the heck out of it.
Yeah. Well, we're 11 years past Incredibles. We're 20 years past Toy Story, and we're still watching those. I mean, they're good ones, just hold up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So both our number 2s were Inside Out. So, yeah. So now we're on to number 1. Number 1, Dakota. what is your number one favorite movie of 2015?
That would have to be The Martian, sir.
Wow, The Martian is Dakota's number one movie of the year. Another October movie, right? Yes.
Yes, yes, it
Another
was.
October-
I love how you had to check yourself there.
I had to think. Well, you got me all second guessing myself now, but No, The Martian wasn't in my top 5, but it was definitely in my surprises. Like, I didn't know what I would think going into this. Ridley Scott had just kind of lost a little bit of my respect with Prometheus, and I wasn't sure about, sometimes when there's a lot of hype about a book, that can backfire too, and so just wasn't sure what to think about this movie as a whole. Some of the casting, like, just something, not Matt Damon so much as just like some of the people around him. But so I put that in my surprises. But Dakota, where are you at with The Martian?
Oh, what can I say about this movie? Let's see.
How can I count the ways?
Well, you gotta admit, Ridley Scott. We all know he's a good director. But he's kind of in a slump. That Exodus movie didn't really do.
That's right. He had Exodus too.
Didn't really do him any favors, which is a shame because he made that movie for his brother Tony.
Who's been passed away for 2-3 years.
Yeah, it's been some time, and then the often lamented Prometheus, which just gets no love from anybody.
It's hard. It's a hard movie to love. It's a hard movie to like.
Yeah, but you know what? This movie just was just incredible. Sure you could say, well, the book was great. Well, we've seen horrible movies made from great books, and we've also seen good movies made from bad books. I don't know how it works, but it works.
It happens.
But I really felt, sci-fi has kind of always been Ridley Scott's forte.
Mm-hmm.
From all the way back when he first got started, Blade Runner, Alien, and here we are with another sci-fi movie, but although a completely different one from any of his previous ones.
Yeah, one really based in reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was intriguing about this one.
And this was kind of a new movie for him because I don't think he's ever really had a movie that dealt with isolation so much.
Yeah, Alien a little bit.
A little bit,
but not to this degree.
Yeah,
not in a Castaway sort of way. Like this was basically Castaway on Mars was how you could market this a little bit, but different.
But yeah, like this movie is just beautifully shot.
Yeah, cinematography is great.
This is the movie that kind of reminds you that Matt Damon is a really good actor.
Yeah,
he just kind of nailed the character, and just
that's what I would say is like being someone who was familiar with the book and had read the book. It was like he fit that character so well, Matt Damon did, that it worked on every level of that character. You believed him as smart, you believed him as cocky, and you believed him as a survivor. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just loved this movie. Like every single frame of it. This is honestly what I was expecting of Interstellar. Just to be completely sucked in and to just love every moment of it, and that movie was good, but it wasn't as big as or as good as we had all expected.
You're right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but The Martian is what we wanted Interstellar to be. You're right. Yeah. That's true. Yeah,
and this is I'm just gonna say it right now. It's a modern classic.
Using classic a little soon, maybe.
Yeah, well, let's get to your number one first before you say that.
I'm not calling mine a classic. I'm just saying it's my personal favorite movie of the year, and that's all we're doing. I'm not calling it a classic yet. Well, if it does, but what you know,
you will be. I
But that could be because Disney is going to, brainwash me into going, it's a classic. But if you're not getting what I'm probably referring to yet, my number one is Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Now, it seems like an obvious choice for number one, and maybe it is. I'm not going to say it's not an obvious choice. But I just... to not have it at my number one would just be me lying to myself and fooling you people, because it honestly was my favorite movie of 2015. Whether it's a classic in 20 years or not, like New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi are, it was my favorite movie by far of 2015. It's the first movie I've left in 12 years to the month where I left a movie and went, I want to see that right now, / if episode 8 were playing across the hall, I would run over and sit down without even worrying about going pee first. It was just like, that's how I left. So satisfied. Even in the imperfections of the movie, I was still just satisfied with every moment. I probably had a stupid grin on my face the whole time, because once the crawl started going with the words, and it started with Luke has vanished, I was like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want. And it wasn't George Lucas's vision necessarily for what he wanted 7, 8, and 9 to be specifically. But we found out maybe that's okay. That's okay. It wasn't specifically his vision. You can be the purist that you are, that since he wasn't involved, this is basically just an expensive fan film. I don't care. It was still my favorite movie of the year. It felt like Star Wars. It was Star Wars. Every actor in it nailed their role. Even Daisy Ridley, who was like Daisy Who a year ago, was just perfect as Rey. I thought she was great as Rey. Harrison Ford, just nice to see him caring again and doing a great job being Han Solo again. And yes, there was some moments of fan service in this, but it never got overwhelmed with nostalgic fan service. And so I found that very nice too. But as I've said in our review of this, and as I think I even said kind of a little bit in this episode when I was talking about Mission Impossible, was I'm pretty much for the most part okay that JJ isn't doing anymore, just because I think he was the right guy to launch this, and I'm okay with seeing maybe what some other guys could bring to the Star Wars universe, where maybe this was the right way to start it, but maybe we do need to start moving into the new characters' stories more and leave nostalgia a little more behind. And I have a feeling that if JJ were doing more, it would keep being nostalgia, or too nostalgic. And so maybe that's okay. We'll see. We'll see where that goes. All that matters is that right now, my favorite movie of 2015 was The Force Awakens, and I'm not ashamed of it.
Well, you shouldn't be. It was an amazing movie.
That's the problem with these big movies, though, is that because they get so big, you always have the people that have to do the old, wasn't that great? And where's Hayden Christensen? And like just say dumb things, have something dumb to say. And all I got to say is I hope this beats every single one of Avatar's records, because Avatar sucked when it came out and sucks worse now.
That's not entirely true.
It's totally true.
It was amazing when you first saw it, and then I
saw it the year it came out, and I went...
Yeah, there's another movie I think that was released in December, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I really wanted to put this on my top 5, but it's been way too soon. It's kind of like, you meet somebody who is just so beautiful, and you just want to go up to him and say, "Will you marry me?" But it's too soon. It's too soon.
And I think maybe why I wasn't scared to put this on my top 5 and maybe this will sound creepy now that you use the analogy of "Will you marry me?" was that I did go on a second date with Force Awakens. Not that I'm condoning after 2 dates you're ready for marriage, but I felt more confident for this to be my number one after going to it a second time and leaving the second time more satisfied.
See, that's that. I think that was my problem. I've only got to see it once, even though I want to see it again.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's doing so well. I'm pretty sure like 3 weeks from now it'll still be at the theater here.
Yeah. You have till February. See, I'm sure. Yeah, and so that was the thing. When I left even more satisfied after date number 2, I was like, okay, I know now that I wasn't just, and maybe I still am a little bit of a lovesick puppy right now, but 2015's over, so I can still honestly say it was one of my favorites in 2015.
Yeah.
So
it was pretty good. I loved it too.
Some other surprises this year were ones that weren't in my top 5, but nobody was really holding much of hope for, but that were better than everybody thought they'd be. Would be Ant-Man. That was one that people thought was just going to suck, the big one.
Yeah, even diehard Marvel fans had kind of written that movie off.
It was just kind of a write-off movie, but they all went, but I'll still go. And we did, and we were like, wow, that was really fun, and it was like a heist movie, and yeah, it was just fun. And another one I had was, this is one probably nobody remembers now, because maybe some of you haven't seen it, but I was kind of surprised because I honestly didn't think this movie would be good at all. In fact, I thought this movie would be just terrible. Was Paddington. It came out like January or February of last year. And, it was based on the Paddington Bear of the books that we all know as children, where he wears the rain hat and raincoat and is a Peruvian bear who loves marmalade. But I found this movie to be really fun and very, very clever in like an artsy way. It had a lot of cool like artistic shots and things done in it. And it was kind of creepy at times just because Nicole Kidman is like obsessed with doing taxidermy and like wants to kill Paddington. And so maybe for like really young kids, that might be kind of scary just because Nicole Kidman just being herself as an evil woman is kind of scary. But I still found it to be really fun. Good movie. And the only I'm not saying it was the greatest movie ever, but again, it was just a surprise when I thought it would be crap. And another one, our very first movie review, Beyond the Mask. I didn't think that one would be that great, and it was better than I thought.
Yeah, that was definitely way better than anticipated.
And then a documentary I saw this year called The Overnighters about the movie more or less focuses on a Lutheran pastor who helps guys out who come up to work in the Bakken oil fields up in North Dakota. So it takes place in Williston, North Dakota.
Ah, cool.
And the nickname the guys who come up the church nicknames the guys who stay at this guy's church the Overnighters. But it's really about him just trying to help these guys and kind of telling their story of these guys who have nothing and go here thinking, this is where I'm going to become somebody, I'm going to get money. It's basically the 1849 gold rush in North Dakota right now, where everybody's going there thinking they're going to just make buck, and there's a lot of guys just finding struggles. And so it's a really interesting documentary. It's called The Overnighters, but I would check that out if you like documentaries. So, and it's on Netflix.
There you go.
FYI.
You don't have to travel to your local video store.
So you don't video store or video box. But yeah, and so if you have a Netflix subscription, you don't even have to leave your living room. So a couple I found fun but lacking were Avengers Age of Ultron and Jurassic World, where they were really fun. And I liked them, but they weren't quite to the level you hoped. I guess is maybe the way to put them. Honestly, I thought Age of Ultron would be in my top 5. Like, hands down, I thought, no, that'll be in my top 3 of the year. And there were these other movies that just ended up outshining it. I Again, I don't think it's bad. I just think it just wasn't quite what it could have been.
Yeah, one that you could definitely say was good, but it was lacking something would be the latest Fast and the Furious movie.
Yes,
And
a lot of people like it basically just because of the tribute to Paul.
Yeah, it has probably one of the greatest send-offs of any movie you could have for somebody who's unfortunately not with us anymore. But overall, there's just the story just doesn't really make any sense.
What? Fast and Furious?
Jason Statham's character is pretty cool, but at the same time,
It's Jason Statham.
But at the same time, it's like, really? Are you guys just gonna... There's a scene where him and Vin Diesel just decide to throw down in a parking lot. And it's like, really? Is this how we're wrapping up this movie? And then The Rock with his minigun, and it's just like, what is going on here?
Miniguns can work, and miniguns can fail.
It's almost like the whole Paul Walker wrap-up just pretty much elevated this movie way, way above where it should have probably been.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know some people are going to be like, you jerk. Let's hang him.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel.
Did you have any surprises that you didn't hold much toward and then they ended up being better than you thought? Is that off the top of your head?
Obviously there was Bridge of Spies.
Sure.
Star Wars being just blowing my mind away.
Sure. Yeah, those weren't in your top 5. That's true. But yeah, all in all, I mean, it was a pretty decent year at the movies.
Could have been better, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were just some you hope for more of, but hey, it's kind of how it goes. So we'll go over our each of our 5s real quick, just run down the titles for you. Dakota, what are yours again?
My top 5 are Sicario, Straight Outta Compton, Mad Max Fury Road, Inside Out, and The Martian.
The Martian. All right. And my top 5 are Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Bridge of Spies, Shaun the Sheep the movie, Inside Out, and Star Wars The Force Awakens. So yeah, those are each of our top 5s. Movies we like. Again, these aren't necessarily Oscar contenders or going to be on the major critics list. Some of these might be, but not all of them. But just movies we really had appreciation for. Thought were just some of the ones that stuck with us now that we're in a new year of new movies. And so that's probably what we're going to be talking about next on the next episode is what we're looking forward to. But this show, we're going to put a check mark next saying we are done with this one of giving our favorite movies of the year. Remember to like us on Facebook, subscribe to us, whether it be on YouTube or iTunes or whatever way you'd like to subscribe to us. We hope you're doing that. We hope you're spreading the word if you're enjoying it. We've been really, it's been really cool just to see that there are people out there listening, that we are noticing that our episodes are being downloaded, listened to, and that's just really cool to see. And it means a lot that you're listening to us and that we can keep this going.
That's right. Don't be afraid to give us any feedback.
Yeah.
Even if it is strongly negative, we will appreciate it.
I thrive off negative feed. No, I was kidding. But yeah, don't.
You're only going to make us better.
Feedback is feedback. I'll take it anyway and get it. So, but with that, I think we'll wrap up the show here. So I'm Steven.
And I'm Dakota.
Have a good new year.